I just wanted to wish all of you the happiest of New Year's and to let you know about some changes that we're making for 2023 for Lead with Trust. So first, we are going to shift to episodes on the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month. We've heard you loud and clear that weekly is just too hard for you to consume. Second, we are doing some series, and the first one is going to be on bringing women into construction. There's over 500 million construction jobs that are sitting unfilled, and the industry really needs to do something. We're seeing this impact on all the projects I'm working on, and it seems that, we really need to figure out how to increase our workforce, and women is half of the workforce are in the world. And so women seem to be a natural, along with others, of course. So this series is going to share the insights and lessons learned from women who are working in the industry and who can be role models for other women who might want to join the industry. The series will be on Tuesdays, on the second Tuesday of each month. We will be also doing on the fourth Tuesday of each month our regular episodes that we've been doing, where we're learning and thinking and doing things for the industry. Third, Lead with Trust is not just a podcast. You can get the same great information by subscribing to our Lead with Trust newsletter, or by subscribing to the Lead with Trust YouTube channel. And this way you can get the information the way you like to get it and share it with your team members and colleagues, and so everyone can get the information. So lastly, Lead with Trust is really here for you, the whole construction nation. Let me know if there's a question, a topic, a trend, or something you would like me to explore on Lead with Trust. And until next time, Construction Nation, thank you for a wonderful year. Hey, Construction Nation. Welcome to Lead with Trust. I'm Sue Dyer, and I've been on a 3-decade journey to figure out how to make sure our construction projects succeed and produce some extraordinary results. My trusted leader journey has led me to work on over 4,000 construction projects worth over $180 billion. In this podcast, I'm here to teach you everything I've learned. One thing I know is that it starts with the leaders of the businesses and organizations that come together to build a project. If that's you, let's get going. Hey, Construction Nation, this is Sue Dyer, and this is episode 62 of the Lead with Trust podcast. And today we have a really great guest, and it is Jorge Rubio, who is the Deputy Director of Airport Management for the City of San Diego. He is also the immediate past president of the Southwest American Association of Airport Executives, which is where I met Jorge as he was passing the gavel to the next leader, the next president. And I was very impressed at how renowned and beloved he was by his peers. And no one can achieve that in an industry without knowing how to create a high trust environment and high trust relationships. So I think he gives us some pretty good insights in this episode. So let's listen in. And I'm so excited to have Jorge Rubio here with us today. He's someone that I think is a true epitome of a trusted leader, and in both his work world and also his volunteer world. So we want to learn more about that, what he's doing, and his journey on how he became such a great, admired leader. So welcome, Jorge.
Thank you so much for having me here today, Sue.
I'm so happy that you're here. Thank you. So I would always like to start off with a crazy question. So tell us about your very first job you ever had.
Oh my gosh. Can I tell you about my first 2 jobs that I had initially?
That sounds perfect.
because the first one only lasted less than a day. So I was 16 years old. I lived in New York City. I had just arrived in the US, and one of my dad's friends, he said, you should come over and work at a restaurant and as a busboy. So I went in the first day. I worked for about a half day. And the reason why I say that I only worked for a half day is because I wasn't really understanding what people were saying at that time. And the owner obviously was not too happy with that. And he requested that I come back when I learned the language. And funny stories later on I did, but I was a customer then. But my other job was actually helping my dad. He did work at a factory. We used to make golf products. My dad was leading the production line, and we made golf bags. We made golf clubs. If you're familiar with the golf carts, we actually made the cabanas and the coolers. So if you're ready to golf, I was the guy that you needed to talk to.
That's very cool. Very cool. So you came here at 16.
That's correct.
That is probably like a pivotal time. Think about that, because you're still sort of a kid, but you're definitely on your way to becoming an adult. What was that like?
I can tell you that it was very, very interesting. I'll tell you a little bit about my background. I actually grew up in Ecuador initially at 9,000 feet, so all the way up in the Andes. We did not get any snow, so thankfully. But then later on, I kind of like went to school in the city. I ended up going to a private school for a few years. I was trying to become an architect, so that was my field of study. So when I came to the United States, I left the country living, and I landed in New York City. But one of the things that I would say was interesting is the fact that I thought that because I used to watch it on TV, I guess I didn't realize that New York City is not full of buildings all over the place. It's just Manhattan that had it. So that was kind of like, I was a little disappointed, but at the same time, I wanted to go and explore, and I wanted to conquer the world. So it was just a great time and a great opportunity for me to be able to do that, and for my parents to be able to give me that opportunity.
It's so fun. I just love stories where people came and your dream of architecture. So you land where you think you're going to have the best architecture in the world to look at and fuel your dreams. But there's got to be a lot of trust in yourself to go from there, to really make your dreams come true.
Yes, I think so. I can tell you that when I was a child, I was very shy. I didn't really interact with people too much. I kept everything to myself. And when I came to New York, I actually went to a school. The New York City school system had just opened this high school. It was called the School for New Americans, Newcomers High School. So I had the ability to, actually, I wouldn't say the ability. I was exposed to so many cultures from different countries around the world. So we had people from Italy, Nigeria, Taipan, you name it. We had it all. So I was able to learn a little bit about their cultures, about their language. But at the same time, since we weren't able to fully communicate, we had to trust with our signal language, kind of like what we were saying. So it was definitely something that we had to play along with. And I think having me exposed to that type of environment really helped me out later on.
I can see that. I can see that being, like extraordinary. Also training your brain to kind of almost just float with trying to figure out the signals and what people are communicating through body language or tone and things. I bet that helps you a lot now.
It did, and it does, yeah.
So what role does trust play in your role now as Deputy Director of Airport Management for the city of San Diego?
So I have been with the city for a little bit less than 3 years now. I was initially hired to be a program manager, but with the intention, I believe, to put me in this position. I believe that in the position that I am right now, since I am responsible for making sure that the airports are run safely and efficiently, there's a lot of people that need to put their trust on me. First of all, I gotta say that in order for me to gain the trust, I have to have shown them that I have the ability to do things, that I have the knowledge to run the operation efficiently, but also I need to show them that I'm able to understand politics, I'm able to understand regulations, that I am able to especially understand and motivate my employees, and the ability to show them that I truly care, which is something that I am sincere about and that I always support. So there's many things that happen at airports every single day, and people just need to, trust that I'm doing a good job. And if I get their trust, then my job becomes much easier. Because I don't get questioned too much, but if I get questions, I'm happy to get them. But they feel, I believe that people feel that I'll be giving them an honest answer, and that if I don't know the answer, I'll be doing my research in order to provide them with the proper communication.
I think that's so true. But I think there has to be confidence and trust in yourself that you can be truthful, even when you don't know. It's like, I'll find out or give you my opinion, but I don't know for sure. So tell us, what was your journey from New York to getting to San Diego? Because that's a bit of a ways.
It is far, but I've moved before, so it wasn't something new. But I did see an opportunity on the West Coast for me to further my career. At the same time, I did have a young family, so we decided to move across to look for better opportunities. When I was in New York, I didn't get to it earlier, but I actually did not get a degree in architecture. I found out that aviation is what I loved, and I finished my degree in aviation management. Went to work for the airlines at the John F. Kennedy International Airport. Then I went to work for the New Haven Airport in Connecticut as an operations supervisor, and came to the West Coast, and I ended up working at the County of Ventura Department of Airports that oversees 2 airports similar to what I do here in San Diego. So in San Diego, I oversee Brownfield Municipal Airport and Montgomery Gibbs Executive Airport, which just happens to be one of the busiest general aviation airports in the nation. My journey to get here, again, I wanted to look for something that would be a career opportunity. I wanted to make sure that my family was taken care of. And it just happens that I believe that in California, you have a great mecca for aviation within the United States as well, as far as general aviation is concerned. So it just worked out well for me. That was awesome. In 2006.
That's awesome. Well, welcome. We love having you here.
Thank you.
So I know that you've also been a leader, just the past president of the Southwest SWAAAE, which is the American Association of Airport Executives. And I know that, that is never an easy job, although it's a great group of people, but there's always, politics and things that happen. And I know you are beloved. So how did you become beloved in your industry?
When I came to the West Coast, I wanted to continue to get involved with the mothership, as I call it, which is SWAAAE, the American Association of Airport Executives. And I knew there was a chapter on the West Coast, and I wanted to get involved right away. So at that time, I would say I wanted to learn a little bit about what the West Coast was about. I wanted to create some relationships. I wanted to have a sounding voice whenever I had a question. But later on, I got to say that transitioned into, hey, I have been able to do that. I think I belong here now. I think the Southwest chapter, in a sense, is my second family. And at that point, I wanted to contribute a little bit more than just taking it in. And I knew that we had some schools in the area, so I wanted to that focus on aviation. So I wanted to provide them, in a way, a path to aviation, maybe get some mentorship programs happening. And at the same time, I wanted to represent the industry, not only regionally, but nationally, in a way that the airport industry move forward. Because there's no better feeling than having been able to contribute and having left your mark, as small as it could be, but having left a mark as to something, a positive change that you've left behind. So that's why I wanted to initially run for it. And I did get the support from many people. The chapter is about 600 members, and you have to be elected. So it's not something like, hey, I'm going to be the president, you know. So in the association, in order to be president, it's actually a 4-year commitment. People need to know you. People need to trust you. People need to feel good about the representation that you're looking to provide to them. And then when it's time for elections, basically, you show them who you are. You try to be sincere. And as I found out, they will like you if you do those things. So first, they elected me to be what they call the second vice president. So that's just kind of like to understand how the executive committee works a little bit more. Then they move you into the first vice president seat, and then you learn a little bit more about finances, about some political things as well, and then you're ready to serve as president. And I just stepped off during the conference that you attended with us in Sonoma. So at the moment, I am the immediate past president. So in a way, I am kind of like the sounding board for the new president that came in.
That's so cool. I think that the work that we do in the associations are so important and rewarding. I've always heard people say, and I still think it's very true, the more you give, the more you get. And but I don't see all the time a president that's as beloved as you have been. Don't see that all the time, for sure. Since my Wall Street Journal bestselling book, The Trusted Leader, came out last February, so many of you have asked me to create a course based on my book. So I've spent this year developing the Trusted Leadership course, Go Farther Faster by Using Trust. And I'm so excited to announce that this self-study and also group coaching course will be ready for launch in January of 2023. It has 6 modules that will be transformative for you and your leadership. And I guarantee that you will get a breakthrough to the next level of trust in a challenge that you and your team face. And the group coaching is there to support you every step of the way and answer your questions and learn from others. I'm so excited, and I hope that you will jump on over to sudyco.com/course, SUDYCO.com/course, COURSE, and reserve your spot today. Now, back to the show. Sure. And so congratulations on that. But it just sort of follows suit with your ability to care and create a high trust environment. And you brought that to the association as well. So tell us a little bit about projects you've worked on. We're going to have Construction Nation here. So tell us a little bit about projects you're working on, you're going to work on, what your philosophy is, whatever you want to tell us about projects.
Well, projects for me are a way to make sure that the infrastructure survives. And if it is new infrastructure, to make sure that that new infrastructure is useful for the parties to be. In my case, I obviously oversee airports. So most of the work that I do has to do with runways, with taxiways, with the ramps, and improvements that would ensure that aircraft are able to touch them safely. And now those are the infrastructure projects related to safety. Then you have some other fun projects, as I would call them, where you actually, you have two options. You can actually go on it on your own. So the municipality develops facilities. I'm talking about buildings. I'm talking about terminals, things of that nature. And you can also go what I call the P3. As a matter of fact, we just had the P3 conference summit in San Diego last week. It's the public-private partnership. And the key word there is partnership, where you as the municipal body are looking or is looking to provide a public service, but why don't you bring somebody from the private sector that can come in, that can build the infrastructure for you, probably at a more effective timeline and a more affordable cost, I would say, and they can deliver it for you, and they can provide that benefit to the public. And in return, you'll get a portion of the revenue that they would be making. In our case, what we do is we lease the land out to businesses. We call them FBOs, or fixed-based operators. And then that's the way that we actually get them to build facilities that are able to handle the traffic. And then we get revenue in the forms of concessions, in the forms of rent, of landing fees, or anything that may be flowing through that facility. So that's basically how we handle our projects. Where we sit right now, today is August the 16th. I won't say the year, but over the next 5 years, we have slated about $50 million of projects between both airports. And again, most of them have to do with runways, taxiways, parking lots, that type of infrastructure, and that is really expensive. So with us, we are lucky that we work with the FAA, and they actually give us the funding mechanism to get most of those things done. Their share is about 90 or 95% of the cost of the project, sometimes 100 if you're lucky. But one of the things that we're looking to do is at Brownfield specifically, and this is something that we need to go out and see if the FAA would be willing to fund, but we're looking to build a new terminal facility at Brownfield. So when you mentioned about what my approach is for projects, I've told you about infrastructure, I've told you about the private buildings, private facilities. But when you are working with contractors, you're basically trying to make sure that before you get a contractor, you get a good consultant on board that are able to estimate how much a project is going to be, if there's any potential work orders that will probably come out, and what the options are, so that you have a good scope for the project, so that when you actually get a contractor on board, that you are on the same page. I do have to tell you, by reading your book, you mentioned that in your book, The Trusted Leader, that you encounter a fist fight during one of your first meetings. I have encountered meetings where they're having some disagreements, and we have been able to work them out by having the representatives in the room and setting clear expectations. So I think clear expectations is definitely something that you need to have, and anything else can be worked out.
Yeah, I really believe in the partnering process, particularly if you're going to do something that has a fixed price, whether it's a CMGC or a low bid. I think you need to have a methodology, a framework that allows for alignment and agreement along the way and measuring. So I really am a big believer in the partnering process for that. And with P3s, my belief is that they have their place, and they have places where they're not. I remember I was at a very large airport, and they were doing a P3, and a mayor's on TV that night. I'm sitting in the hotel at the airport, and she's going, "How can anybody know what's in this 25,000-page document?" And they did pass. The city did pass it, but then like 2 years later, they shut down the whole program, and kicked off everybody off the project and had to completely restart. And that's not the first story in aviation I've heard that. So I think they definitely have their place, but they are not easy. So
right.
Also, you were talking about the FAA, and I know the FAA sort of has 4 levels. And so what do you do to develop your strong working high trust relationship there? Do you have any insights there?
Well, with the FAA, I think they are looking for different things, right? I mean, there's different arms of the FAA. For example, you have the compliance arm. Our airports are not really what we call the 139 certified or commercially certified. But when you work at an airport like that, typically you have several standards that you need to meet. How many times you are inspecting runways, if there's any breaches that occur, like safety breaches, and they have inspections. So they actually have a pretty cool way of monitoring that you're doing your work. I wouldn't say monitoring, but just ensuring that you do your work. It's the self-compliance documents that you need to follow. So you as the airport create what you call the airport certification manual. You send it to the FAA, they bless it, and now you have to abide by it. I call it the airport Bible, basically, but that's because you have to follow it, to the teeth. So that's the first one. And then as far as grants and other relationships with the FAA, I would say you always have to keep engaged with them. You always have to tell them what projects you have coming down the pipeline. I mentioned that we have the airport capital improvement plan for both airports. That is a 5-year document. It's basically a wish list. It's not necessarily in stone, but I will give the FAA an idea as to what projects they have coming down the pipeline. And then they're able to tell you if you can qualify or if they have the funding to allocate for that specific project. So that's kind of how that works. And when the time gets closer, then you actually can deliver. But when I would say you can always apply for funding. Sometimes you get denied. In our case, we try to make sure that we always get that funding. And the FAA, the staff also looks at your history. So if you have a project that is ready to go, or if you have a history of projects that you've been doing, they'll look at you favorably. And that's, I think, a big help whenever you're trying to get something bigger accomplished, because they can trust on you delivering what you promised that you were going to be delivering. And at that point, it's just easier to get the funding. So working with the FAA has definitely been a learning experience for me, not only on that side, but when you're working with the FAA, people here are probably familiar with the NEPA process, or the federal NEPA review. And you just want to make sure that you want all the stars lining up, basically, in order to make sure that a project moves forward and you're able to deliver on that project. And that's great. I think they also feel proud, to tell you the truth, whenever they have a project completed and they can close it and say, hey, I worked on that project. So they feel part of that construction team on the ground itself. And make sure, that you call them out whenever you have something going on, whenever you have completed a project, or whenever you're starting a project, so that they can see how they land, or how it looked vacant, and now there's something, infrastructure on top of it, and that just makes them feel well.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you sort of embrace them as part of your team, as opposed to putting a wall and throwing things over, which happens a lot of times. So,
exactly.
Yeah. So I know I've worked with the FAA on actually, they've hired me before to do things for them, but yeah, they're just people just like everyone else. And I love it when they actually come to the projects and are excited to see, what are you doing? And then they take that to other projects, which is exciting. Happens very quickly. So what are some barriers to trust that you have faced over your career?
There have been some. At a previous job, I won't disclose it, but at a previous job, I was, I would say, in middle management. And I was applying for a promotion. And I mean, there's been other instances, but I'm giving you a specific one because at this specific time, it wasn't only about the promotion, but it was about potentially the whole team having repercussions happen to them. But really what happened is a position became open. I was looking to apply for the position. However, everybody, and I say everybody, within the department, they were not fans of the person on top, the person that I would be reporting to if I was promoted. So I have been debating about potentially being that filter between all of the employees and that specific person. And I didn't really know how to do it. But I guess something within me just gave me the strength to go to that boss and be sincere about it. So basically, I went to him, I approached him, I told him, hey, I know you are considering me for this position, but before I do that, I want to be sincere with you. I want to tell you what is happening. I want to tell you how you can help fix the situation. And if you trust me, I'm willing to do that with you. So I took that chance. I was at a risk of not getting promoted and potentially having stay there for a little longer. But then that person actually listened to me. So what happened at that point is I got promoted a few weeks later, and we ended up talking to each employee individually to see what was bothering them, what wasn't bothering them, to understand what their goals were, to understand what they wanted for us to do in order to help them achieve them, to see what was possible, to see what wasn't. And obviously we had to be genuine about what we were looking to promise them. And that really changed the way that that organization operated. A few months later, I mean, that team could have done anything for us. I mean, it was just, the trust was there. We could ask them to do something and they would go above and beyond to get something completed. And they would say, hey, by the way, I did this too. And we would be so happy. And at the same time, they would come, they would come to us and we would be there to defend them. So eventually that leader ended up leaving. It was an unfortunate situation. And I got to tell you that the trust that the employees were left with, and the trust that they had on me at that time, it was just amazing. I just couldn't believe it. I was speechless as to all of the gratitude that they had. So it was just an amazing, amazing opportunity, an amazing, amazing experience.
And it sounds like you learned a lot of lessons from that too. So that's my next question. What's your biggest lesson you've learned about trust in your career?
Be humble. I would say be humble, be genuine, and know that you are working with and making decisions about people's lives. Mm-hmm. And not necessarily about yours, but about everybody else as a team. So that's the biggest take that I have received, and I think it has served me well.
That's cool. I think that it shows. Yeah. So if you could change one thing in your organization or your team to significantly improve the level of trust, what would that be?
That's a really hard question. I would say there's maybe a few things that I would be able to do. I came to this organization about 3 years ago. I have made some changes. I think I have created a little more trust back and forth, but there's still some other things that I think I could potentially do. And I am trying to actually do those as we speak. One of them is our airports. We have airport operations staff for 2 airports, and they only report to that specific airport that they're assigned. So what I'm looking to do is actually, and one airport was feeling less than the other. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get those staff members to actually collaborate and work at both airports, get experience at both airports, and be able to report at both airports so that they understand how they both operate, and they can actually take stuff from either one of the airports to the other airport if they believe that it is going to improve their operation as well. So that's one of the minor things that I think I'm doing, but I think it's going to be carrying a long way.
It doesn't sound that minor. It sounds like it will do several things. Cross-pollination for sure, effective efficiencies as well, and also just the ability to marshal your resources where they're needed when they're needed. It sounds like it's going to be a really, really good thing. But isn't it interesting how people get so used to a routine and they're siloed in their own little paradigm? And you have to kind of pull them out of that until they find out, oh, there's a bigger world out there and it's more fun.
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to do. Now that you mentioned that, actually, another thing that I'm trying to do, since you mentioned SWAAAE as well, is I am trying to make sure that staff knows about the opportunities that are out there within the industry, and that it's not only about the city of San Diego airports. As I told you, there's many other airports out there. There's certifications through the American Association of Airport Executives. There are certifications through SWAAAE, ACI, anything. So I'm trying to basically have them learn. And what I want to motivate them to do is I want to motivate them to stay because we treat them well. But at the same time, I want to let them know that there's a bigger world out there, and if a better opportunity arrives, there wouldn't be any hard feelings because we will be providing to the industry, not necessarily to the airports alone.
That's cool. That's cool. And employees need that so much today. You know, they need that flexibility and the ability to grow and to have their people want them to grow. Yeah. So one last question. What advice would you offer to other leaders who are looking to level up trust in their team or their organization, their city, or their association?
I would say talk less, listen more. And what I mean by that is they should be able to listen to their employees, not necessarily just hear them, but listen to them, be able to understand their language in a different manner, understand potentially where they're coming from, understand if they're having some personal issues, if they're willing to share, understand if the issues that they're having are because maybe they don't have the help that they need. And that's where they will get a lot of help from the employees themselves. As far as within different organizations, and I would say within an organization's executive leadership, I would say something similar, but at that point, I think you also need to be able to demonstrate and have the ability to continue to learn, be caught up with technology, understand everything else that is happening in the world, don't work on your own, and take advantage of the networking opportunities that you may have.
That's awesome. Thank you. So what's your dream job?
I have it. I work for Dream.
There you go. We can sit right behind you.
Right.
For those of you on the podcast, there's a beautiful plane. Tell us about the plane right behind you.
So actually, when I talked about Dream, I work for the Department of Real Estate and Airport Management. So it's Dream. You take the first letter of every word. But the aircraft behind me, it's a P-51 Mustang. That picture was actually taken at the Camarillo Airport when I worked at Ventura County. It's one of my favorite aircraft that is out there. And as you can see, they cleaned it really well.
It's beautiful. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. As are you. And thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. I mean, yeah, it's just delightful. And I know everyone will get so much from your interview here. I really appreciate it. So how can people find you?
So I am easy to find. I would say try to email me, J.E.Rubio, R-U-B as in boy, I-O, at sandiego.gov. That's where they can find me.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much, Jorge. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sue. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks for being here. Okay, Construction Nation, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Lead with Trust. Will you do me a favor? If you think this episode can help anyone on your team or business, please forward it to them. Please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And your honest review, hopefully 5 stars, is much appreciated. Every leader who learns how to build their business and projects on a foundation of trust is going to reap the rewards of greater productivity, attracting the best of the best, enjoying your business more, and doing things you thought were impossible. If you want to know where you are in your trusted leader journey, I have a free resource for you. Please just go to sudyco.com/profile, SUDYCO.com/profile. And you can grab it there and find out where you are on your trusted leader journey. And so that is a wrap for today. Can't wait until I get a chance to hang out with you again next week. And until then, have a great day.